I'm your host, Katie Burrell, and this is The Arc of It, brought to you by Arc'teryx Academy. Our guest today is Nina Caprese, a Swiss climber who has made herself famous for her incredible passion for climbing, and, of course, her incredible skill. Having completed multi-pitch ascents and routes all over the world, Nina and I talk about the less glorified part of the sport, knowing your limits and recovering from when obsession takes over and you push yourself too far. I love Nina's approach to climbing in life, focused, intelligent, balanced, and calm. She shares her wisdom on becoming a better climber and why getting yourself out of the gym and onto the rock is really the key to excelling. From the Swiss Alps to Makatea to Yosemite, Nina has amazing stories from the seemingly endless adventure that is her life. Here's Nina. So tell me where you are. It's your evening. It's my morning. Hopefully by the end of this chat, I'll feel a little more awake. You'll be ready for bed. Where are you? What's happening?
Okay, right now I'm in Switzerland. There's not a lot going on. I'm at my mom's place. It's pretty chill. And yeah, I just enjoy a little family time. That's it.
Awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Are you taking a break from climbing right now, or is just a visit?
Yeah, kind of visit. I do a little climbing, but not a lot. Yeah, it's more when I go and visit my family, it's really like family time. I like that.
Yeah. Zone in, have those long chats, catch up.
Yeah, I have like my two nephews, and I really love spending time with them, like swimming in the lake and just playing around in the forest, and it's really good.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Family time is so precious right now. I feel that in my soul when you say playing with your nephews. It's so precious.
I know.
So, Nina, I have to say, like, you've had quite a climbing career. Really exciting from start to finish. Start to where we're at right now. And I can imagine that people are just so curious as to how you got started, how this came to be, how you got to where you're at. Because the thing is it's not like you woke up one day and are who you are. You know, it's such a process of getting there. So take us from the top. How did this start? How old were you? What brought you to here?
Well, it's actually pretty simple and easy. I grew up in Switzerland, so in this little Swiss valley where I am right now. And I grew up surrounded by mountains. And so moving in the mountains has always been just the most natural thing to me. We grew up actually like doing skiing and snowboarding here. And not really like mountain climbing or so, but I mean, the mountains, they're always there. So I think I learned by the age of 2, I learned how to ski, and then just got really like into it. Like it's really here you ski. It's like the thing to do. And then I have 2 older siblings, and they started to do a little bit more ski touring and like climbing. They entered into the Swiss Alpine Club. There's a youth group here, and they just started to join the club. And of course, me as the youngest, I really wanted to do the same as my siblings did, so I joined.
I feel like this is such a thing. Whenever I'm chatting with the youngest siblings that have 2 or more older siblings, they dedicate so much of their success to their older brothers and sisters pushing them, and them just having to spend their whole lives trying to keep up.
Well, it wasn't actually the whole life. So my sister, she actually stopped when I started, because to her it was just so annoying to have her like younger sister in the same group. So she's 4 years older. My brother's 3 years older. And she had really a hard time just seeing me like crushing. Not like crushing, but really, really being into it. And my brother, he was like the opposite. He was so sweet. Like he took me everywhere. Like I remember for my 16th birthday, he offered that we will climb the Mont Blanc. It's like the highest peak in Europe together. So we catch a train here in this little valley. It took us 6 hours to go to Chamonix. And we took our tent and our little stove and bivvied up there in the glacier. And next day we walked. It's kind of a walk up to the Mont Blanc. And then we did that, and we slept again a night on the glacier. And next day we went down to the valley and catch the train and went home. So that was super cool. That was super cool.
So casual.
So casual.
No kidding. That's so awesome. So this has been something you've been doing forever.
Maybe. Yeah. I mean, maybe, yeah. Moving in the mountains, definitely. But then climbing, I started actually pretty late. Let's say when I was 13, then I started to enter also to this club, to the Swiss Alpine Club. And I started doing like, high altitude peaks in the valley and in the mountains here. And I did like summer camps, like climbing camps, and like ski touring in winter. And I really liked like the overall image of what has the mountain like to offer, like really this playground in the mountains. But then I have to say, with climbing, I really got addicted. I remember like my first camp in southern France, I think it was. So I was pretty young. And of course, first you do like top roping. And after one top rope, I was like, no, I don't like climbing a top rope. I want to leave. And that was it. Like young Nina, super.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I really like that sensation of like leading and like having this responsibility of, just taking the lead.
What was that instant addiction? Do you think it was the sense of accomplishment it gave you, or the sense of autonomy that it gave you, or?
I think it was just the excitement. I really like that.
Yeah.
To be alone there, and that a group, of course, can help you. And I was so lucky. There were so many mountain guides like showing us and introducing us to the climbing and all the techniques you need. But then I think I really liked it to have that that excitement, that it's up to me to be in the sharp end and to lead her out, and that was pretty cool. I really like the excitement. But also I have to say, like when I started a little bit climbing, it was really like climbing up. Like we had no idea about free climbing. I mean, that is just not a thing. You go and you grab everything you can grab, like quick draws, and like you stand on a bolt and whatever. It was just really, you climb up. And by the age of 17 only, I learned what does it means to rack point a route. So pretty late. Like I was 17 when I started a little bit like doing climbing in the sense of what almost everyone is doing today. We're mostly just like climbing up. Climbing to the summit.
Okay. Right. Okay. And you were competitive for a while. You were on the World Cup circuit.
Like I did competitions, but I was so not made for being competitive. Like there were all those rules.
Why not?
There were all those rules. And there were all those people. They were not like,
right,
cheering, and like there was no like group feeling and like no together. There was just like you climb there and everyone else want you to fall. And I was really not made for competition.
Oh yeah.
Like, I felt so not in my world.
Right.
And it was just too much plastic. Like it was spending too much time indoors, and the comps are also, they were pretty fun at the beginning. You travel with your little group, and you go to new places and stuff, but then it's pretty repetitive. Yeah, I was bored, I would say. And I wasn't really good. Like, to me, it was super frustrating that shortly I was able to climb like, 7C, 8A, 8B on rocks. And then at the comp, I was just totally lost, and there was no way that I could express myself. And that was a little bit like the difference between like me and the plastic and me and rocks was so big. So I stopped.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So where did that take you? Like, what direction did that send you in? Kind of like you find something, it doesn't feel right, you're not in flow, you head somewhere else. Where did you go next?
It really, like, not pushed me back, but it really sent me back to the roots. And that was actually the moment where I started to do multi-pitch climbing. And not just like scrambling up a mountain or like, doing some like alpine stuff, whatever, just like grabbing quick draws. I was really like, actually, I like the sensation of like working on a hard route and being high up there and like spending all day on a wall or just all day on one pitch, working that pitch and then just sending the pitch. I have to say that the red point, how do you say, system, I really liked it. Like freeing a route and working on routes, checking them out, and then starting from the ground and freeing a really long route. That is definitely what I was made for. That was actually cool. That was in 2009.
Cool.
I had the impression that I found my way. That's what I want to do in climbing.
Okay, so that's called, forgive me, I'm one of these like noob climbers that doesn't know the terminology very well, but that's called free climbing or multi-pitch this place you found was your thing. What's the name of this?
The name is just like, the name is always climbing. Like we do climbing.
Gotcha.
Right. And what I liked mostly was climbing high up. And I really like to free climb. I really like that feeling of like climbing up a wall only by grabbing the rocks and not like gear, quick draw, or whatever. And that's, well, you can say like freeing multi-pitch. Yeah, free climbing multi-pitch. You can have then different like multi-pitch characters. You can have a very sporty character, you know, imagine like a really big cave, like overhanging cave, 5 pitches long, bolted. That is a kind of a sport character, multi-pitch route. And then you can have traditional multi-pitch climbing as well. Or you can have like a multi-pitch more in an alpine environment where it's kind of mixed. It's a little bit of trad, a little bit of gear. So, but I really like, what I liked was being high up. I love the sensation of being alone somewhere in a remote place and moving really freely on a big wall.
And you've pursued a lot of that, like these adventure trips to Argentina and Mexico and Makatea and all these places. Like, so this feeling of being high up obviously led you there. Where were you drawn to? Where did you go? What did you see? What did you do? Tell us.
It wasn't only like my big passion for being high up, but I think all my life I was super curious. Like I wasn't really afraid of doing mistakes, or I wasn't really afraid of trying something new. I wasn't afraid of failing. So important. I think actually that was guiding me to agree to go to like really cool places, countries, climbing walls, or just like sports routes. I think I was super curious, and I never had this like fear of, but what if I can't climb up? To me, there's always, well done, you have to go down. Like there's a way down. I wasn't really afraid of that. And I mean, many times I just had to bail, or I had to wrap down and I had to try again or not. Or to me, like the real competition word, or like the real hardcore sport climbing word, I was always missing this sense of adventure, because everything was somehow there to have informations. Like today you can kind of YouTube a video, watch a video of like a route, or often in sport climbing routes, there are many people climbing that route. So, you know, the betas and the holds are pretty obvious, and you know when the season is good and there's not very difficult approach or so. And that's exactly what I love when I'm up in the mountains or on a big wall. There's just so much new rock, or there are not many people climb that route. So you really have to figure it out on your own. And it opens you really a big field of solutions. Yeah, I was just realizing that if I have actually too many informations, I'm just not open enough to find my way to climb up on a wall. And that was helping. That was really good on a wall. You know, you just find your way.
Oh, that's really interesting. So something about these foreign countries or remote places where you can't, you know, rely on beta, or it's not a gym, or it's like you have to figure it out yourself. And there's a certain appeal to that, of course.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, there's competitions. They help me, of course. They help me to improve. They help me to know some stuff, the sports, and also a little bit how to train and how it works and all this stuff. And of course, I also wanted to do my proofs. If you're a young kid and you just want to climb grades, like you want to climb hard grades, and you want to prove that you're somewhere, someone, that was good, but it wasn't really like my heart wasn't really there. And when I found myself on a wall, I was just there
Hmm.
with my partner, and the time you spend there is so it's so magic, and it doesn't matter how much time it takes. The more time it takes, actually, the better it is because the time there is so good. So you don't want to
Right.
finish as fast as you can. You want to spend a lot of time on a wall and having a great time on a wall.
Well, this makes me think immediately of your time on the nose in
Hmm.
Yosemite
Hmm.
and with Lynn Hill. So tell me about this. That you guys were out there for 7 days.
Yeah, the second time we were on the wall for 7 days.
Okay.
Hmm.
Okay. Tell us this whole story. I'm dying to hear it.
So it actually all started back in maybe in 2016 or so. I started dreaming a bit about Yosemite. I never had the courage to go there. It was pretty shocking to me. I heard there were so many rules and so many things you have to know, and
Yeah.
I wasn't really that wasn't actually not what I was looking for. Because here in the Alps you can climb everywhere. Like there's
Mm.
no park where you have to sign up and there's no line or whatever. So it took me a while. And well, then I had the courage and I went there with my partner and we climbed the nose, like in typical classic style. Like we planned the route in like 3 days and as much as free as possible. But of course, I had like no ambitions to free the hard pitches or whatever. We just wanted to climb up. And when we topped out, we were so disgusted. Like I think everyone who
Oh,
tops out
wow.
on our cap is kind of exhausted and disgusted because it's so different than the climbing here in Europe. Like there's so many people. There's just so much pee on the route. There's a huge line. There's a huge traffic. There is so much going on, which is not really related to climbing. That we were just like, oh my god, okay, we're out. But then after 2 days on the ground, actually, I was dreaming about, why not going back to the top and like checking out those hard pitches, which are really on the top of the route. And my partner was just no, like, no way. I'm not willing to go back. And I was like, okay. So we climbed another route on our cap, which is more to the right, El Nino. And it's a pretty hardcore route, not so much trad, it's more sports. So there were no like 8 climbers in it. That's a big thing too. And it was just all free. So we climbed that free in 4 days, El Nino. That was really big achievement. That was so great. And then the year after, it was the 25th birthday of Lynn's first ascent. And so it somehow we sent it, I don't know, it just happened that we teamed up for that. Because I sent her a message like a really long time ago, actually just right after I climbed it the first time. And then she came back to me like eight months later or so. She's like, "Oh my god, I never saw your message because I sent her a message on Instagram." And Lynn is like the worst person on like social. Like, she's is really not on her time. But then she's like, "That could be so much fun." Going back to the route with you, and I will support you so you can check out the routes. You will see it's not so hard. I have all the betas, and then you just go and send her out and do the second female ascent. I was like, well, we'll see. So in
No pressure.
2018, yeah, no pressure, Lynn, calm down. So in 2018, she took off a whole month, which is like the first time for her since her son Owen was born. That was a really big engagement for her. And so, yeah, that was chapter 1 with Lynn Hill, 1 month in Yosemite. And we checked out a route, we climbed, she belayed, she climbed, she realized that it's really, really, really hard actually. And yeah, she offered
Yeah.
us really good support, and I was super happy. Just, it's Lynn. Like, you couldn't find a more authentic climber than Lynn Hill. Like, she's so much into
Right.
it. Like, it's incredible. And then I wasn't really able to free the changing corners. This is a very famous like 14A dihedral on the upper wall. But we were like, yeah, let's just go and celebrate that that's your birthday actually. And so we spent 3 days on the wall. I climbed all the pitches free, but not the changing corners. We topped out. And then she's like, Nina, look, you need to train a year and then you have to come back. You have to send it. You're so close. And I was like, I'll see. And then I flew back home, and then I was just like, I want to free climb the nose. Like, and so I dedicated, I mean, that year, but also like the year before, I was training really hard to be prepared
Hmm.
as best as I could.
I just want to ask a question about training for something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Like how do you train for something like that? Is it physical, mental, or is it like studying the wall and the rock? Like, what is it that's the main focus of training when in that year when you're like, I'm going back there. What do I need to
Mm-hmm.
focus on?
The thing is that I'm telling you now that I was training for a year, but if I'm honest, I trained like 10 years to be able to, for one day, freeing such a route. It wasn't
Right, of
for me
course.
like pretty clear that it would be the nose, but I mean, everything I wanted to do over the last 10 years was to become the best or just one of the strongest big wall climber in the world. Like, I wanted to be able to climb in any kind of style, any kind of degree or grade, and just climbing free, like just free, like fearless, like knowing the gear. I put so much time and energy into learning properly how to track climb. I trained so much like all the rope techniques about like holding, camping on a wall. I studied and learned so much about my body, like how much do I need if I go for like
Mhm.
a one day? How much do I need if I go for like 3 days? Like how much water? How much can I hold? Like how are the systems? What if my partner can help? What if my partner can't? Like what if there's an accident? What can I do? What I have to do? What if we lose gear? What if like everything? I studied and I trained it for over the last years, like 10 years, I would say. But that year, I became super obsessed about being physically super strong because I knew I had somehow the knowledge. I felt
Right.
super safe on gear, and like I'm definitely not afraid of like falling and like. So the winter, then
Yeah.
I took a break, like a month, 4 week break, I would say, after the first time, and then I just started to do physical training. Um, I never did that. Like I never had a like, trainer or so. But then I was like, maybe I could. Yeah, I could do it. That's the right time to do. Then I sport climbed a lot in spring in France. I climbed many arêtes or dihedrals or just weird style. I really pushed myself into awkward position, awkward climbs that nobody want to climb, awkward things like
Right.
where you can't really control. It's just all about like the feeling and the strange and like the good mindset. And then summer approached and I
Right.
got super stressed. Then I left to Makatea actually, and that was really good. It was really a month off, like that just really cleared my mind. And there was also Jonathan Sigrist on that trip, and we talked about it because I started to be super nervous and super freaked out. And it's like, oh gosh, I don't know, Jonathan, is it worth to go back and to do all this training because there's such a big chance that I will not be able to climb? And he was just like, look, Nina, if you don't try, you will regret it. So go for it. Yes, as hell, like do it because you would regret it. I was like, well, that's true. That's maybe true. So yeah, back in Europe, I climbed so much in granite in Chamonix. I did really hard climbs up there in the Mont Blanc, Massif and all
Mhm.
this stuff. And then the travel, like October approached, And Lynn was like, Nina, I haven't heard from you. What's up? And I was like, well, I plan to go back to Yosemite. And she was like, so, and who's your partner? And I was like, well, I don't know. Um, I don't know. I wasn't, it didn't felt right to me to ask you again to come back. And she's like, of course I want to come back. This is vacation for me. I want to be your partner. And I was like, really?
Oh, amazing.
She's like, yes, of course. Hell yeah. So we teamed up again, like for
That's
a
so
month.
cool.
But I had a really heavy health problem just before. Just before I left, I felt really burned out, really stressed. I would say this was a really mental ill I got. Was like I had a really big inflammation on my toes. I had somehow of a fungus thing, and really strange. Like I wasn't able to put on climbing shoes.
Interesting.
So during my first 10 days in the US, Lynn wasn't there. I just climbed with my runners. Like I climbed really hard routes with my runners because the pain was so strong in my teeth. 2 months before that, I was on a super crazy weird diet of like just protein.
Yeah.
Because it is super like famous, and that is like the thing everyone did is like, yeah, like high protein, like no more carbs. And I was like, well, maybe I should do that. So I lost, I don't know how many pounds, because I'm not like, I don't have like a physical of like being super fat in general. So when I'm on diet, I lose weight pretty dramatically.
Right.
And so I was there in Yosemite.
Plus so active.
Like, oh my God, I feel so shitty. Yeah. And I called my best friend. I was just crying. And I was like, oh my God, I feel so bad. Aww. And like Lynn arrives, like, I don't know, she's supposed to arrive, but I don't want to go back on the route. And she's like, Nina, hike up to the top of El Cap and just be in nature. Like, and then you will feel if you want to climb that route or not. So I was running up El Cap, and I was up there, and I was just laying on those really beautiful granite slabs. And I felt, yes, that's the place I want to be. And now I want to go rock climbing. So I called Lynn the same night. I was like, Lynn, you have to come. And 2 days later, she was there. Yeah, wow. 2 days later, she was there. We spent a lot of time on changing corners. I was super close to send that training route. And then we're just like, well, let's go for a run. Let's go for a ground up. And she was pretty confident that I will be able to send, because physically I was so fit. Like I was really, really, really fit.
Right.
So yeah, we climbed up. I was her rope gun as usual. She just had to climb top rope. I was hauling. I was carrying everything. I was leading everything. And she just fully enjoyed the trip. I free climbed the Great Roof pretty easily. We made our way up to Camp 6, and then we got stuck there in the changing corner for like 4 days. And I tried so hard, like so hard. And on my last try, I was really, my foot slipped like so close from the top. And that was in the rope, and it was day 7 on the wall. And I was just like, well, that's it. I'm over. And then she's like, we're done, right? And I was like, we're done. Like we were so exhausted, like out of water, out of food. So tired of like being on those changing corners. And that was it.
Okay, so obviously not, I mean, I'm not a climber, but tell me what it is about changing corners that is so, I mean, I can understand how difficult it is, but I'm like, what is it that wasn't working for you? Or what is it that's so complex about this one?
Well, it's very slippery. Imagine it is a corner, and everyone is aiding up that pitch, and they're holing in that corner. So the rock is really smeary. Like a cap in general has like granite, which is really slippery, smeary in general. And when there's a lot of traffic, it's really, really slippery. That is definitely a big issue. And I think it changed a little bit since like 25 years since Lynn was climbing it. But this is not an excuse. Like this is just a fact. And then it is just so hard on body tension on like the feet, and it's very hard to figure it out a beta because there's not really a thing you can calculate or do exactly the same. It's a lot of like pressing, pushing. It's a lot about, kind of not grabbing, I don't know how do you say it. Your butt is on the wall and your legs are on the wall, and you just go and you give everything you have. It's like this section is like 14A. It's so short. It's 4 meters. It's like 2 mans, It's so short. It's pretty intense. And I had like 2 burns a day, and then I was done. So that was tricky. It was super tricky. It was super hot. I mean, we were like beginning of November, and it was burning hot. It was so, so, so hot.
Oh,
so
wow.
the only moment to climb it was like in between 5 a.m. and 9, maybe 9 a.m.
Oh my
So pretty
God.
short. And then you were just sitting there in burning sun, waiting for next day. So that was a little bit tough. It's one of the most
guys like
difficult
talk?
times. Oh God, we did only that. Like, I know
Just
all
chat
about
away.
Lynn.
You know
knows
everything
all
about each other.
me, everything. Like, that's the coolest thing. Like, you have so much time chatting, talking,
Yeah.
and it becomes so deep, so real. Like, the more time you spend on a wall, the more you reflect on like the things you did and the stories you went through. And like some nights I had cramps in my stomach. I was laughing so loud about Lynn's crazy stories. It was hilarious. It was so good. I mean, that all that story sounds super dramatic, but it was the best time I had. Like, it was so, so, so good.
Yeah.
I never had so much fun and so many laughs with Lynn, with another person on the wall. I mean, I never spent like full 7 days on a wall. That is just the best. Like, it was the best. And so we topped out.
Wow.
And sometimes you have really this feeling of like, damn it, it wasn't enough, but I'll come back and I'll do it and whatever. But this time it was just like, I couldn't do better. I mean, it was just like, I'm not strong enough. It's too hard for me. And my boyfriend actually asked me a month ago.
But
you're
satisfied.
I was exhausted, like really.
Yeah.
When you climb the wall for like 7 days, you can't really say if you're happy, if you're sad. You're just exhausted, like, and you're disgusting.
Yeah.
So you're just like,
oh my
I
God,
want to go down and take a shower and eat some fresh food and sleep and drink a beer and have a party, and that's it. Like, there's not a lot of like disappointment or whatever. You're done.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
You're done.
Yeah, but I mean, I also have to say that was definitely that was too much. Like I've really fucked up my health. Like having such a weird infection on my feet. Like losing so much weight, and then when I topped out of the wall, I was just like, oh my God. I was super fragile. I was super. I was just exhausted, and that was, to me, Nina, that was too much.
What was the recovery?
I was just flying back to Europe, and I started dating. That was really good. I
started dating?
Yeah, I started dating a guy. That was awesome.
I didn't know if you said you started aiding, like aid climbing, or like started dating. I was like, I hope she said dating, because that sounds to me like a better recovery.
No, I was just so over it that I dedicated all the last year. So I was like, no boyfriend, like no one who takes me off from like performing, like no one who want me to be something else than a climbing machine, no one who is like telling me what I have to do or should do or not do. I was like so dedicated. I was so focused, and I was so tired of it. So I was like, oh my God, I need sex. Yeah. I need a boy. I need party. I need a real life.
Right.
That was it. Yeah.
And how long did it take you to start feeling normal again and start feeling healthy again?
Well, my feet, that was a long story for like 3 months later, I would say. My feet hurt
Oh,
a
wow.
lot. Yeah. Yeah, I had to do really intense like foot therapy that all the fungus goes away. And well, I don't know. I climbed, of course, I started climbing again, like rock climbing and so, but it was a little bit painful in the beginning. But I don't know. I just did some really cool rock climbing, south from France and in Spain, where, it's really mellow sport climbing. I mean, I still climb pretty hard,
Mm.
but I don't know, just like an easy setting. I was a little bit tired of climbing walls, I would say.
I mean,
Yeah.
after 7 days and after a year like that, your mellow is probably most people's still quite
Yeah,
difficult. Your like gauge was maybe a little off.
that's true. That's true. But I have to say, it was a very important point at my career that it really showed me
Yeah.
I am not the person who is willing to do that again. Like fucking up your health for climbing that
Yeah.
route, it's not worth it.
It's just so interesting to go that deep into it in terms of putting your health on the line, spending an entire year dedicated, or I mean, so much time dedicated, and then getting there and realizing, like, I mean, maybe I'm putting words in your mouth, but it sounds like the takeaway, it's like, you learned your limit, but you also like really reflect more on the time you had with Lynn and the relationship and the bonding.
Well, I think the thing is that during all my careers, all those years before, I always climbed for myself. Like I had a
Mm,
dream, I had a goal, I was super excited. It was so much fun. It felt always good when I had a little bit, like when I felt a little bit, maybe an injury is coming or whatever, I immediately stopped. Or I was super mellow, like there was no pressure, like big pressure or no obsession. And for the nose, that was what made me so crazy was I had so many expectations to be able to free climb that route because it's such an iconic route. It's so important. The entire climbing world, which is not a big word, but the entire world knows that route. Everyone knows Nin. She had
oh, for
so many
sure.
expectations in me because we really liked each other. I mean, we became really good friends. So of course she wanted me to success. She wanted to, yeah, that I, and so many times on the wall, she had to cry because it just seeing me to her really remind her how she was when she was my age. And it was actually where she was
Mm.
33 when she freed that route. But it really like was shocking to her because we have so many similarities in life. Like what do you do? Like the joy of life, like the crazy stories, the drugs and like sand, like I don't know, dirtbag climbing style. There's so many things we're really, really similar. But yeah, I think I did not I don't want it to climb that route just for me. I really wanted to prove something. I wanted
Mm.
to show that I climbed the
Mm.
nose. I free climbed the nose, and that is actually what makes an athlete unhealthy. It's like you're so obsessed with those goals and this obsession, and you're losing your just this good balance of taking it a little bit easy and like, taking a step back. So that was a good lesson. It was the first time and
That's
definitely the only time.
Yeah, that's really interesting. So, sort of touching that threshold or coming in contact with that threshold, and so many signs along the way saying to you,
Mhm.
your body's telling you lost all this weight, your feet are reacting, you don't even know if you want to climb the route when you get there. And it's like your
Mhm.
body's calling to you. And
Mhm.
it's when you're so focused on a goal, you forget to listen to those cues,
Sure.
or you don't want to listen to those cues because
No.
you're so
Ex-
committed to that goal.
exactly.
So
Exactly.
in terms of like this other style of climbing, like the adventure climbing or you're in Makatea, you mentioned it as part of the process, really like
Mhm.
pre getting to the nose. Like what's the difference of that kind of stuff? Like going to these remote locations, being without service and just sinking into a new place and discovering like how does that feel different to you in terms of the climb or climbing?
That's just who I am, basically.
Mm.
Um, it really makes me profoundly happy. like
Yeah.
profoundly connected with a place, with nature, and with the people I am with. There's just one way to do it. It's like having like a total open mind, being super open towards people, learning to communicate in every kind of language, respecting like other people's culture, things they do, they don't do, being very humble, with with so many things. And that's just who I am. I'm I really like that. I don't like to feel like I'm the master. I want to send this thing. I know I can do it. I have the power.
Yeah.
It I really like when nature is the boss, and then there are somewhere humans like far behind. And feeling the rocks and putting up some new routes is super interesting. I think what I'm like mostly in it is really the creation part. It's like recreate a route, but more than that, you really create new connections and you create a link to another culture, and you learn and you really create something new, and that's what drives me. I think from all my travels, or just also from being here in Europe and switching. Let's say I quit Switzerland when I was 22 because I was super curious to see like how
Mhm.
how it would feel to live in France. It was always my dream, and not being like, "Hey, I'm the Swiss. I know everything, and everything is like so correct." I was more like, "Oh my God, I love this craziness, and I love like how people are such a strong character, and I love like the culture and other stuff." So
Yeah.
I mean, it's awesome climbing New
It's
Zealand.
like
I
an
mean, it's awesome. I mean, beside the rules, it's just part of the game. But I mean, it's so impressive. It is really beautiful. I'm a very sensitive person and very emotionally, so I
Mhm.
can really feel like the things in the air and stuff. And I think it's really interesting to feel people and to see and to watch and to observe and to step by step you create a relationship or a link with something or somebody. That's actually what I do with climbing routes. I mean, I never pick up a goal just by because I was looking at the topo. Like I had a look on a picture or someone is telling me about a route and it sounds like an adventure. So I just go and see first time. I mean, I would never go to a wall and say, I climbed this route. I would just go and see how it goes and discover the route and feel if I'm capable to do it, see what I need to do it, like who would be the right partner, and this is how I approach a dream or a vision I have.
Would you say that's more kind of your approach to it then now, like versus the obsessive training and dieting and being in the, sport climbing and gym and
Of
more
course,
this
I
kind
mean,
of exploration?
of course, I mean, it's always been like I think I got really obsessed with the nose, but that is the only route. I mean, I was never so crazy before.
Right.
I was I was never losing my mind. Um, yeah, it's just my natural approach to see like that's the
Yeah.
mountain, that's the cliff, and this is strong. And if you don't do things right, or if you're losing your head, it just becomes super dangerous.
Say we were at the academy in Chamonix and we were sitting in the theater and there's an audience and you had an opportunity to impart some of your wisdom or expertise on the crowd. Would you direct people towards that more sort of curious, exploratory style approach, or what would be the advice you'd give to people who are looking to take their climbing to um, new heights. Oh god, that's a horrible pun that I didn't mean to make and then made, and here we are. But the next level, looking to take their climbing to the next level. I'm humiliated.
That's okay.
But,
Um, well, the first advice I give to people, to someone, is climb 10 years before you do any kind of training. And actually, like a
oh, cool.
training, everyone today thinks like if you want to become a better climber, you need to fingerboard, you need to do pull ups, you need to do core workout and stuff. But what I was mostly doing was really training to climb pretty much free in a wall. That means like totally fearless, having a really good know-how about all the rope techniques and being very sure that I can, if there's an accident, that I know what to do. Feeling really well if there's if I have to climb on granite or if it's limestone, if there's tufas, if there's like loose rock, if there's good rock. Like knowing the terrain and yourself so well is actually the key for me to be a good climber. Because what I can see is that so many people, they're so strong, like so strong. But when they go out or they have a little pressure or whatever, or they're just freaked out, they lose all their availabilities. Like everything is gone. But I would say if you're just such experienced climber, or if you have a lot of experience, your head or how will not go. It's the fear that takes off everything. The fear makes that you forget how to protect yourself. The fear makes that you forget how to build a belay station. The fear makes you rushing, and so you're losing gear or whatever. The fear makes that you're not able to climb above the bolt. Like the fear is such a big factor. And so the more fitter you are, like physically wise, the higher are the expectations, and the more you're gonna lose your skills. So that's just the advice I have. If people have the chance to climb, especially in the rocks, because it's the best teacher in the world, they should just go. And every type of rock, sandstone, granite, tufas, loose rock. It's so important to know how to climb on loose rocks. That's the most important, almost. People should really take falls, because if you take a lot of falls, your body knows immediately, instinctively, how he has to fall. If you have, let's say, your leg behind a rope, during the fall, you would just take out the leg. Like, you will not just fall like an idiot on your head. If you twist in the fall, you will really know how to protect yourself, or how to fall if you have to. If the catch is not really soft. Like, all those things are so important, like so much more important than being physically fit.
It's the self-management, more what you're saying, or the self-management as well as the management of the whole situation.
I mean, look, if you're able to climb like 14A and then you found yourself on a multi-pitch or on a pitch which is like a 12A, but the bolts are really exposed, you really have to train how to calm yourself and to be self-confident and say, come on, I climbed 14A, I'm not going to fall. So even if I can see the next boulder, if it's a huge run up, I'm pretty confident that I'm not going to fall. But this is a thing, like, people, they don't know, they don't train, because it's not really nice to train. They don't want to expose themselves in these weird situations, and it's kind of a, it's kind of a big ego thing.
Yeah, it is. Mm-hmm. It's like you don't want to admit to yourself how much work you need to do, so you just don't do the work, and instead you just sort of stay where you're at, almost, instead of leaning into that work.
This is so true.
How's your experience with fear been? You spoke about your curiosity, mm-hmm. Which I think is an awesome sort of replacement, for fear in those moments, or when you say, replace anxiety with excitement, replace fear with curiosity. But mm-hmm. what's been your relationship with it? You've been in some incredibly exposed places and some, mm-hmm. as far as I'm concerned, terrifying places, mm-hmm. but you're calm up there, you're playful. What's the approach?
The thing is that I got so excited about leading. So I don't know, it was maybe like in my first year of climbing, we did many multi-pitch climbing. And of course I was like, yeah, I want to lead. But the routes were really hard, or I hadn't really a lot of experience. So we climbed this terrible slab full of like moss and grass and all this stuff. So I slipped on the slab. I wasn't falling. I was just, how do you say this?
Oh,
rapping?
Sliding.
Rapping. Yeah. you know, when you have like cheese on top of your pasta, what do? And it's not that.
Grating.
Yeah,
Grating.
exactly. And that's what happened.
Ugh.
My legs, I looked like out of war, like coming from a war. I was just so shaky back at the police station. I was bleeding all over. I was like, oh my God, I'm still alive. Well, let's go back. And I went back and I overcame it. But it really learned me how to climb on moss and like grass and all this stuff. And then I climbed a lot when I was younger in the Ratikon. It's a mountain chain here. And there are pretty hardcore runouts, like especially on the easy parts. So I really learned how to manage my fear. I really learned to calm down and to tell myself, Nina, you're not allowed to fall here. You're just not allowed. It's not an option. But also, you can't down climb often. You go, but stay calm. That helped a lot. Helped a lot. If you climb on like those slabs, they're super insecure. You can't protect, and you just have to go, and you have to stand really good on your feet. That's the key. And so I learned to manage that. And yeah, like I told you, I climbed a lot in mountains. So you really learn how to climb on loose rock or unstable rock, how have to, to climb like a cat if it's like a little loose rock, or how just the rock works in general. Or if you climb on some limestone is moving all the time. With after winter, with the rain and stuff, so things can break out. And it's I really learned how to study the rock, I would say. Also, if there's some ice, if there's some climbing, if you climb on mixed climbing in spring or later in the summer, it changed a lot. I really learned how to run on like loose terrain, some half snow, half icy, half stone. I really learned how to run and to see how you have to be in the movement. You have to be in the movement, you have to run down. Yeah, I think I studied a lot, like not planet Earth at all, but I studied a lot the rocks. I really learned to have an eye on it, also to read a line, or if you can't really see how the line goes, or where does it go through. You really start to read the little footholds, or you can imagine things. You can imagine like rope, traction, just all this stuff.
That's so cool. I think that's that's such an interesting sort of takeaway from both, climbing, but also to life, or takeaway from climbing to life is this focus and this self-confidence, the focus on what's right in front of you, one step, the rock right in front of you, understanding your environment, and then the self-confidence that comes from that, the confidence of just standing on your own 2 feet and having just you to get yourself, through something. I think it's an incredible, incredible takeaway. And also, almost has me inspired to try it myself, although I find it so scary.
I don't want to blame people at all who are really into training, or they do like physical workout and stuff. That's totally fine. It's just, maybe it's also a thing I never found it really exciting. And maybe I was also just not talented to build body strength with like a workout or stuff. I was always so bored, and I was so bad also in it. That's also for sure a reason why I quit like a training. Or my training was mostly like climbing in a gym. That was training enough. Yeah, I mean, it's pretty intense for like the fingers. If you climb and plus you do some hangboard and fingerboard, it's just so much weight for the fingers. And I mean, that's totally fine if people, they like feeling strong and they like to do the workout and they like to be really fit and stuff. But it's just often the question from people is, how can I improve my climbing? And then you ask like one question, are you afraid to fall? And they're like, oh my God, yes, I'm so afraid. And it's like, well, don't ask me about like a training or like how can you build up your fitness. It's just work on everything else than your body fitness.
Work on your ropes, work on your self-management, work on your fear, work on all the things, like you've said, that nobody likes to talk about. It's not the glamorous side of it. It's the nuts and bolts, the hard work, the
Exactly.
gritty stuff. And
Yeah.
that's what improves.
And it's not really glory. I mean, I did some really bad falls, like never really, really bad. But I mean, it hurts. Like falling can hurt. You can hurt a little bit your foot or whatever. Your body will be blue, and you have some scratches. Like it's not really nice, like to take falls every time. And I mean, you should not push it neither. Like a fall should just come because you're on the limit and you have to fall. Like there's no option. But not like, okay, are you ready? I'm ready. I want to fall. And then your belayer is super freaked out and he would just not do a good job because you yourself are so freaked out that your belay partner will also be super freaked out. And then you will have a really bad experience. And then you're like, okay, done. I'm done with falls. I like it. I like it. To me, it's such a feeling of freedom. Like I know when I fall in a rope, I tried everything. And I mean, this is maybe also like the Nina speciality. Like, if I'm fit, of course, I climb hard. If I'm not so fit, I climb like on lower grades. But the Nina thing is, I hang on like so badly on every single climb. On every single climb. And I think with the climbing, I really learned that there's no room for ego. So if I have to try so hard, it just happened 2 days ago. It was like a 12A. I had to try so hard. I was screaming on that. And I was just, if you try so hard and you can do it, or then you take a fall, that's just an awesome feeling. That's just an awesome feeling. So to me, taking falls is always like...
you push yourself as hard as you possibly can.
Yeah. Yeah. That was also
took it all the way to the limit.
Conclusion of like the nose. I knew I couldn't do better, and I knew I tried everything I could.
Oh
like, there was not more. I was over. I was game over.
And that's really what it's about, eh? Like that like getting there. Wow. Well, thanks so much, Nina. This has been an awesome conversation. I'm feeling like incredibly inspired, actually. I love watching you and some of the other Arc'teryx athletes on social media climbing, and I've done it once, and I find it really, it's one of those things that you can't look away from. You can't stop watching, but I'm very nervous. And I find it, so maybe this is the year that I give it a whirl. Thank you so much.
It's a pleasure.
It's truly inspiring. That was Nina Caprese, who you can find on Instagram at Nina Caprese. If you have climbing questions, I think it's safe to say that she's your girl. And hey, she reached out to her hero on Instagram, and look where that got her. So you should do the same.